I want to show you how to put into practice some of the strategies on navigating the teacher and projector dashboard, such as starring certain answers and highlighting them on the board. So at any time when you want to get back into a session that you had opened previously, you go to peardeck.com, you go to the Sessions tab, and you have two views. You have a classroom view, which is what's on your projector, and you have a teacher dashboard view, and that's where the names are attached. So what I recommend is if you have the classroom view open already, that was what we were looking at before. So why don't we start there? And then you can go down to the three dots, and then you can just open the dashboard in a new window. So I'm going to split my screen so that we can look at both things at the same time. And by splitting my screen, all I mean is that I have two windows open. So I'm going to just resize my window, and I'm doing this manually. There are some plugins to do it automatically. If you're on Windows, it will snap into place, but I'm just doing it manually, keeping things very simple here. So I'm going to move this window over on the left. So I have this kind of split screen where I have the projector view on the left and I have the teacher dashboard on the right. Now, if I'm doing a Zoom screen share, Google Meet screen share, then you can just share one single window. And that's what I recommend in a virtual setting. When you're in the classroom, you might need to open the teacher dashboard on another device so that your students aren't able to see all the names attached. What I personally do when I'm in my normal face-to-face classroom is I just have this projector view up on the board, and then I can freeze my projector remote so that I can move over to this other window and kind of check in on individual students, but that is not reflected on my projector in the front of the classroom. So if you have a projector that allows you to press a freeze button, that would be my recommendation. But let me just go ahead and assume that you know how to navigate your own projector and that you can keep the focus on just this screen on your projector and then have this either open on another device or in another window that's not being projected. Okay, so now I just have two responses here. If I wanted to just highlight one of the responses on the board, like my classmate got a puppy, then from the teacher dashboard, if I click this star button, then it will only show whichever of the responses I have starred. And I can star more than one of them if I wanted to project both of them. I can also clear all stars, and clearing all stars would again project all the responses. But I could just go through and select a couple of responses that I want to highlight, maybe an incorrect answer and a correct answer so that we can talk about both of them, or we could talk about two different perspectives. That is how I would kind of set things up ahead of time so that what I'm putting on the projector is just really what we want to have a conversation about, and I can just draw attention to one thing at a time. So again, that is controlled only in the teacher dashboard, and then it will reflect in the projector, whatever you had starred. You can then clear all stars. In case you ever get a response that is inappropriate that you don't want shown on the projector, here is where you can hide the response. So if I hide the response, then it goes away. And if you accidentally do that, you can show the response again. So that's another way to toggle responses on and off. When we're looking at the draggable dot type, it is automatically going to put all of the dots on top of one another in this overlaid layout view. But sometimes you might want to talk about one response at a time, and then you can change to the list layout and again, just put the attention on one response at a time. In addition, if you are in the overlaid layout in your teacher dashboard, then you don't see the person's name underneath. Like in the last slide, I saw name, name. And that's because if you hover over the dot, you're going to see the name. But if you wanted to see them all listed out, one student at a time, you can go to the list layout and then you would see the names, or the grid layout to see it all in a grid. So that's one other strategy there. Let's move to the slide that was a stress check. So the same sort of thing goes here when I show the responses. I can have the multiple layouts. And this was the one that I was saying that having the overlaid layout is really nice here so that you can see where the whole class is at and how they're feeling, and you can talk about this. So again, bring it to the board, have a discussion. Say that you do the stress check in class, but you see that people are really like something's bothering them or they can't manage their emotions. And it's a moment where you're like, oh, I want to hear more from the student, but I hadn't asked it in the Pear Deck ahead of time. I didn't know that it was something that we needed to really discuss today. And so in that instance, what you can do is you can click this plus button and you can ask a question on the fly. So if you go to the last slide, you could actually change this from a draggable. You can add on a text. It doesn't delete the question that was just asked. It just adds another one into your presentation. So you could do that and ask it on the fly. So now what that does on the student end is it gives them a slide where in the previous question, they had done this temperature check and told me where they fit on the scale. But now I'm leaving them actual answer space to type out and tell me more. Just like that. And you can see how real time that comes in to me, which is what I love about Pear Deck. So now from the teacher end, you can see those responses. The previous slide was their temperature check. And now I had an opportunity for them to tell me just a little bit more. So sometimes we need that on the fly, and that's what the new prompt is there for you. From the new prompt, you have so many of those beginning of class that we talked about that we love, the during class, the end of class. On the next screen, you have ones that are more blank. So if you just want students to be able to type a response and you just say something orally out loud, a prompt for them to respond to. You want them to draw on a blank slide. You want to know if they agree or disagree or true, false on the spot. You can do those. And then that last screen allows you to add a different question type to the slide that you already had pre-created in the slide deck. So those are really helpful. Again, how do we allow all students to share at a time when they really need to share with us? And sometimes, like we just saw on this slide, if you saw that something was really bothering a lot of your class, you might want to open up that space for them to share. And in this case, when they're sharing on this Tell Me More slide, I would not project the student work. So I would keep this hidden. I would tell students that before they start typing. I would tell them, I'm not going to be projecting these responses. Just tell me what's bothering you today. And I would never show the responses on the board. And I would just follow up with students individually by checking my teacher dashboard and seeing what they were saying. So that is my strategy. And then the last thing that I want to show is how you get that climate check. Remember when students first joined this Pear Deck, they put a smiley face or a frowny face depending on how they were feeling. So how you find that information is you need to look on your teacher dashboard. And when you're in your teacher dashboard, let me go back to a question where I had 2 students reply. This little icon, that icon is what they rated on that climate check. So student 1 rated a smiley face, but Stacy Roshan did the kind of middle face in between. So that's how you find that information. That information is not visible on the projector view anywhere. You do have to go into the teacher dashboard and you'll see that icon next to their name, and that's what that means. Okay, so that's going to wrap up all of my strategies. I hope that you picked up a tip or two and a lot of things that you'll be able to apply directly in your classroom. Bye.